This is Murderous Minors, Killer Kids, bringing you the frightening and truly insane tales of children with the thirst to kill. Kindergarten through 12th grade murderers. True stories thoroughly researched. Join us weekly for new tales of parents' worst nightmares on Murderous Minors, Killer Kids.
Hello, Miss Newton.
Hello, Dr. Bright. Glad you came. I hoped you would. I realize you've made certain assumptions about me. I can see the flash of an X-ray camera. It's blinding.
Why'd you come here?
Where I come from, there's a terrible drought. We saw pictures of your planet on television. We saw the water. In fact, our word for your planet means planet of water.
You watched it all on television? Where exactly did you come from?
Well, I'm not an astronomer, but somewhere down there.
Are you the first?
The first what? Visitor? I've always been visitors. On my own planet, we found evidence of visitors. You must have seen them here.
No, I don't think so.
Well, I've seen them. I've seen their footsteps in their places.
I've seen those things, but I've always seen them. That's for theorists. I'm a scientist.
I'm not a scientist. But I know all things begin and end in eternity.
What are you going to do?
You mean, Dr. Bryce? What's in my mind?
Yeah. What's in your mind?
Don't worry. I don't want to hurt you.
This is the emergency podcast system. This is not a test. Movies are bombing all over the country. They are posing as movies you already know. They may already be in your theaters, your neighbor's home, or even your own. Do not panic. Specialists have been dispatched. They will help you identify these pretenders and defend you against this invasion of the remake. Please stand by for further instructions.
Welcome to the Invasion of the Remake podcast. I'm your host, Jason Bishop, and with me today, as always, is my co-host, Sam Stepanenko.
Hello, Starman. That's me. Yeah, I don't know. I was going to go somewhere with that, and I didn't. I'm
Starman.
sorry.
Ziggy Stardust?
No, Starman's a song. Is a David Bowie song, and I was going to use one of the lines, but then all of a sudden, my brain just went blank.
He's the biggest Bowie fan in the world.
Yes. He said he'd like to meet us. That's Starman. There we go.
There
we go.
And, of course, our co-pilot, Trish Coughlin.
Yes, I'm here. Ground control to Major Tom.
Yeah, so many space references in these songs.
Love it. So he's ultimately the perfect lead in this movie.
Yes, absolutely. We're going to be talking about The Man Who Fell to Earth from 1976, starring David Bowie. We're finally going to do our salute to David Bowie, not in the way everybody thought we might, because, I mean, come on, everybody in the Dog Did Labyrinth when he passed.
Yes.
And they should be looking at this one. It's in the Criterion Collection for a reason.
Yes, it is. It really is.
But before that, I want to plug a public appearance. We are going to be making an appearance at the Calgary Red and White Club on September 9th, Sunday, September 9th. So come check us out. Trish and I will be there. Sam is kind of up in the air. I think you're being summoned to work, but...
Yeah, I'm trying to trade it, but it's not looking promising.
Yeah, come visit our booth. Say hi. We're going to have some swag, hopefully, to give away as well. And... and hopefully make friends and a lot of new listeners along the way as well. So come check us out in Calgary at the Red and White Club on September 9th.
Exactly. For sure. You can come and check us out and have that experience that everybody has with like audio personalities where we aren't what you imagined.
Yeah, we're really not.
Like, you hear somebody on the radio, you're like, your face doesn't look like you sound.
Now somebody's going to walk by us, go, it's exactly what I imagined. Like, uh-oh.
Oh, no.
That would be even scarier, actually. I think that'd be a little bit
That's a
frightening.
little freaky.
Right? All right, today's movie is The Man Who Fell to Earth, 1976, directed by Nicholas Roeg, who directed The Witches, another one that actually is ripe for a remake, and Don't Look Now, another horror classic.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so...
He's got a very distinct style.
Yes, he does.
Based on the novel by Walter Tevis, or Tevis? Tevis.
Chevis.
Let's call the whole thing off. Who wrote The Hustler and Color of Money.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. Good pedigree sitting up there. And the screenplay was by Paul Meyersberg, who wrote The Last Samurai. Now, before people get on my ass, yes, there's a 1987 TV remake of this, or new adaptation of the novel. However you want to do it. We've done this kind of thing before, but sometimes we'll do TV in the case of 50-Foot Woman, and in this case... It doesn't even touch the material.
No.
Like this is more of a celebration of
50-Foot Woman did get a theatrical release in Europe, and that was our loophole on that one.
That's
and I
true.
think there's
this one did not.
One very limited edition at one theater.
You look at the cast of the '87; it's like so TV.
Yes, yeah. Right. I wanted to mention the writer, the screenwriter. I found interesting trivia about him. This was his 39th screenplay. It was the first one to be produced.
Oh, see, that shows you a lot. Like
persistence.
As somebody who's done a little bit of film and talked to writers, and you gotta kind of plug away. It's almost like this perfect storm of things that have to happen to get a TV series or a movie actually greenlit and made. And there are times when you see a trailer or you've watched a movie, you're going, how did it even get a budget?
Right?
Like, how do I get that guy's budget money? So you never know. Sometimes it's just the gift of the pitch and the gab, I guess.
Or sometimes it's just persistence.
Persistence. If we make this movie, will you shut the fuck up?
Exactly. We just gotta do one. This guy'll go away.
Right?
But I mean, obviously, it opened the doors for him, right?
Yeah.
At least a little bit. He
Sure.
had at least one other reasonably successful film.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I really liked Last Samurai for what it is. It's still being a weird Tom Cruise movie.
Yeah,
I think it's got all the stuff. Like it's a really good guy movie. When you think of dramas for women, what makes them tear up and well, and what makes guys tear up well, we talk about swords and honorable warriors, and it's all like that is awesome.
it's so beautiful.
It's so beautiful.
I don't know. We do like Honorable Warriors as well. I mean, I don't think it's like completely different. I think my only irritation with it is just dances with pandas. That's the only thing that irritated me about it.
I think we saw different movies.
Yeah. Look, watch Dances with Wolves and The Last Samurai back to back, and you don't tell me that those aren't the same movie with a different setting.
I don't want to watch that because I'll watch Avatar with the Blue Smurfs instead.
Dances with Smurfs.
Dances with Smurfs. All right, we all know this stars David Bowie as the alien. Rip Torn. Oh my God, a really young Rip Torn in this.
I saw
He's not that young. He was our age.
Yeah.
Well, I guess. I guess he never really looked young.
No.
Didn't you find looking? It took me like a half an hour into like him from his first part in the movie to figure out that was Rip Torn.
Well, until you hear his voice, it's really hard to tell it's him because he does look so young to the Rip Torn that we know and love for the most part. And this movie's not all that dialogue heavy. It's a very visual film. Very, very visual. So, yeah, when you're not hearing that voice, then, yeah, it's hard to recognize him.
You actually start recognize him a little bit more as the Rip Torn from Men in Black and stuff when they put the aging makeup on.
Yes, yeah.
Do you think that's why he's in Men in Black?
I never thought about that, but now that, when you think about this as a bizarre alien movie, maybe...
Yeah, maybe
there was a weird reference there that everybody missed.
Maybe. Whoa. Okay. Uncovered here at Invasion of the Remake, everybody.
We might be onto something on that one. Candy Clark, who plays Mary Lou, we actually have talked about her briefly before.
Yes, and I can't remember the movie because I remember the name Candy Clark, and I don't remember who it is.
Jeff was here.
Oh, no, it wasn't Gone in 60 Seconds, was it?
No, it was episode 19, The Blob. The Blobs?
Really?
Blobs, plural? The Blob? What would be a whole bunch of blobs?
Blobs.
A ton of blobs.
Blobs?
Yeah.
Because, it's a gaggle of geese and murder of crows, and what can we call, like, a whole bunch of...
The blob.
A mess of blobs.
Oh, a mess of blobs.
A mess of blobs.
I like that.
A mass of blobs or a mess of blobs?
Mess.
A mess of blobs?
Yeah.
Blobs? Mess
No,
of
I
blobs?
was thinking it's a mass. A mass of blobs.
A jello of blobs.
There we go.
Or a mold of blobs.
Ooh.
Oh, I kind of like that, too. All right. Put a Twitter poll out.
Okay.
Yes.
Watch for that in a couple weeks. We'll
What
try
is-
to time it for the release.
What is the pluralization of blob?
Yeah. What do you prefer?
But like the alien blob, not just any blob.
All right. Buck Henry's also in this movie. You might remember him from like Catch-22 and Grumpy Old Men.
Saturday Night Live.
Yes.
Saturday
Lots
Night
of Saturday Night
Live.
Live appearances.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Bertie Casey, who plays Peters in this movie.
Yes.
It's a very little, like, everybody's kind of a minor role in this because, like, even though they're really important characters in a strange way. We've talked about him before as well. He was in episode 34, where we talked about Never Say Never Again, comparing it to Thunderball.
Yes, he was. I knew we talked about it before, but I didn't get a chance to do the research on that,
Yeah.
which is weird because we're recording 2 days late. But but I still didn't get around to checking to see where we connected.
True. But I was thinking of Bertie Casey is from Spies Like Us.
And one more I'm going to mention here, Jackson D. Kane, mainly because he's in some fun movies that we may or may not cover on this show down the road. Convoy and Every Which Way But Loose. Yeah.
A Convoy was also produced by the producers of this film 2 years
Yes,
later.
there is a reason for that. These guys like to reuse some of their favorite actors. And
People they like working with,
yeah, and that happens all the time in the movie business.
There's sort of groups of people that just tend to make movies together a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I don't know what the budget for this movie was, and IMDb has a U.S. gross of only like $100,000.
There's a reason for that.
Okay.
There was a budget, $1.5 million.
Okay, well, the gross is definitely...
There's a reason for that too. Is Paramount gave the producers the $1.5 million for the U.S. distribution rights. They were displeased with the final product of the film, and they actually withdrew their rights. They said, "No, we're not distributing this movie." And Keeler, I think his name, is one of the producers, actually sued Paramount, and they got back $850,000. And so it only got a very limited release in the U.S.
Right.
Very, very limited release in the U.S. Their worldwide gross was still just enough to cover the production budget, unfortunately. So it still wasn't particularly successful, but they did break even on it.
Yeah, and I can see this having a very mixed audience and critic view. Even now, IMDb gives it a 6.7 out of 10, and it can be a difficult movie to follow. Like, I actually didn't have too much of a problem, but I think, well, as I was watching them, like, going into it, I'm like, I don't know if I've ever seen this movie, and then by the end, I'm like, I think I've seen this movie. I don't think I knew what I watched then.
I've seen it a few times, again, being the Bowie fan that I am, and loving his performance in this movie. Considering this was his first starring role.
And he was on cocaine the whole time.
Well, there's disputes about that.
He
said so, but other cast members have said there's no way that he was on cocaine when he was filming because he was too...
I'm just going to go with what Bowie said.
He also claims he wasn't given a lot of direction, so he was just kind of playing it as Bowie, but I think that was the point.
Yeah.
I think that's what they wanted. They wanted him to bring his own interpretation to the role. And, I mean, one of the things that I loved about his performance is his physical movements, because they were very non-Bowie, right? Like, he took his mime training and created this sort of weird shambling walk.
And I think, because when he comes over that hill at the beginning of the movie, and it's just kind of this slidey rock formation or whatever, and he's kind of coming down and doing this weird walk initially. I in my mind, I'm like, he's trying to figure out the gravity.
Yeah, of course, and that was the intent of it. I'm sure that was the intent of it. Right?
Because everything normalizes, even like certain things that cause motion, like elevators, would make him ill and sick and bloody nose.
They did, yeah.
And later in the movie, they still give him grief, but a lot less.
That's right.
He gets used to things. He gets climatized to the world he's on eventually, and it's handled in a real interesting way. Everything in this movie is handled in an interesting way because nothing's spoon-fed for you. In fact, they deliberately yank things out, like any reference to passage of time.
Except for one. I'm going to bring that up.
Okay, because there was a couple that were left into the movie initially that they had to edit out, so maybe there's one more they missed.
There's one more they missed at the cabin where Rip Torn's character is talking to Thomas.
I wanted to mention that because I ran that at the beginning of the episode here, and there's this reference to burning out his eyes. I see x-rays that burn my eyes. And this actually does happen later in the film. Yeah. And it's funny, when I watched the movie, I didn't really catch it. But when I was lining up my clips, because I was looking for a particular line that I really liked from that scene, and I'm like, this makes this movie make a whole lot more sense. This character of Bowie's, this alien, and why he'll see in the land. He claims has seen other visitors on the Earth. Yeah. He'd go by a spot and you'd see the native settlers or Old West settlers there. And I think that was really interesting. I'm like, this guy doesn't experience the passage of time like the rest of us. No. I think he experiences time in a simultaneous way.
Yes.
And they never explain it in the movie, but there's little hints here and there of like he's there all the time, and maybe that's why he watches all the TVs to distract from the noise of just being.
And that features that great scene where he's like, "Get out of my head!"
Yeah,
right. And we think it's about the TVs because he's got the TVs on, he's got them cranked up, but
it's white noise.
But it's white noise because he's inundated with so much all the time because he's experiencing all of time.
Yeah, he's seeing a lot of stuff. I don't know. Yeah, I think there's some of it simultaneous, but I think he bops in and out in different areas all the time. Mm-hmm. I think that's sort of it. Like, I think when he sees Mary Jo, like when she's older, I don't think that even kind of registers for him because
she's older. Yeah,
he goes back and forth so much. She's been that age before, really, to him. Yeah.
And we just don't mention the specific line about the time. There's a question at time where Thomas asks Rip Torn's character, "What time is it?" And he says, "A little afternoon." Yeah, that's the only time that I caught them actually slip and make it time.
At the very end?
I think that one's acceptable because it's not an immense amount of time like this movie is.
Yes,
because the only evidence of passage of time is through the aging of the characters, except for Bowie.
Except for Bowie, which also lends credence to the theory that he is timeless.
Which makes you wonder because we do see him experience what his family's dying on the planet, whatever planet he's actually from.
Yeah, well, I made some notes about that too.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to run the trailer. This is a little bit of a longer trailer, but I think it's definitely worth it. Catch you up on this very interesting, you may like it, you may not like it type of movie, but I think it's one of these more artful movies. It's worth definitely checking out. When we come back, I'll ask you guys what you think this movie's about.
Are you the first?
The first what? Visitor? I've always been visited.
Nothing you have seen or heard about David Bowie will prepare you for the impact of his first dramatic performance in The Man Who Fell to Earth. This is another dimension of David Bowie, one of the few true originals of our time.
You're really a freak. I don't mean that unkindly. I like freaks.
Is this a weapon?
A weapon?
It's too small for interplanetary travel.
So you assume that it's a weapon? If I stay here, I shall die.
What do you mean? Take me with you. I'll see you don't die.
I can't stay.
You're an alien!
I think you know too much about me. Where are you taking me?
He's just like everybody else. He's a fake.
Please don't do it. You don't understand.
You might be able to save him.
Mary Lou,
Save him?
help me.
From what?
No!
Tell me I love you.
The Man Who Fell to Earth is a powerful love story, a cosmic mystery, a spectacular fantasy, a shocking, mind-stretching experience in sight, in space, and sex.
All right, so that all makes perfect sense now, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. That trailer tells you everything you need to know.
We have nothing left to say.
Yeah. So, thanks for coming by.
All right.
Oh, wait, I was going to ask you guys a question.
Yes.
What do you think the movie's about?
Well, that's a really tough question to answer because it depends on where you are in the movie to a certain extent.
It does.
Right? Because, I mean, the first part of the movie is pretty straightforward. It's a guy who's come to get water to, well, actually the first 2/3 of the movie is about
No, that's his purpose. What's the movie about?
The movie's about, I think it's an allegory about the way we treat the unknown. Right?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you read about...
I think there's some economic political
for sure. There's
commentary.
for sure.
A lot of that going on.
Oh,
as well.
absolutely, yeah. That was the other part of it, is the way that the government stepped in to basically destroy his business because it was too successful. They talk about how it's affecting the economics of the country. So, yeah, that's definitely a factor.
Yeah.
But, yeah, there's a line in the movie that, at the end of the movie, where Bowie's talking to the professor again, Rip Torn's character again, where he says, "I'm not mad at you. If you'd come to my planet, we probably would have treated you the same way." Like that for me, that was the movie right there. That line is what the movie was about.
Yeah, at some point there is a reveal of what he is, or at least I think a public claim, and the scientists can't figure it out, which is weird. I don't know, because they do kind of seize his business when he comes down and he's selling off the rings to build some equity before,
which was really funny.
It is.
I thought that was great.
And then he gets his lawyer so he can start developing these patents that are based on his own technology from wherever he's from. Quickly puts him at the top of the economic chain, because I think he needs more than just himself to be able to build the ship he needs to go back.
Yeah. And I think the other thing happened here too is he ended up with these unintentional human connections, right? Because the whole point of that conversation he has with Farnsworth, I think is his name, is he says, "I only want contact with you."
Yes.
Right. I don't want to be connected. I don't want public persona, because he wants to stay disconnected. He doesn't want to relate to the people of his planet. He just wants to get his water and get the fuck out. But then he has this connection with Mary Lou, Candy Clark, that he wasn't planning on, right? But it was through circumstances. He had that trip in the elevator that caused him to faint and get the bloody nose and weakened him. So that connection was unintentional. And then he develops a relationship with Rip Torn's character as well. Again, just through his knowledge. I think he respects the man's mind.
Yeah, and Rip Torn's character as well, Nathan Bryce, who basically was a chemistry teacher.
He's a chemist,
he was a chemist.
That was unclear for a while.
And was really taken with some of the technology that was coming out of Bowie's
World Enterprises,
World Enterprises. Let's concentrate on Rip Torn for a second. You know, this kind of scummy college
it was
teacher.
so uncomfortable to watch.
So gross.
I'm like, I wish college was that nice to me. But, he's just sleeping with 18-year-old after an 18-year-old.
And it's quite graphic, too.
It is very graphic. I mean, there's
I don't want to see Rip Torn doing that.
Well, there's a point where, the girls are grabbing his penis, and they're like, "Oh, it's nothing like my dad's." What? Okay.
Yeah.
There's a few questions here.
Yeah. I think that's supposed to be a joke. But I think part of it, what makes him uncomfortable, is like, oh yeah, she's very much side eyeing that. Oh, you're old enough to be my dad.
Yes,
yeah, and this is happening. This
and he doesn't like hearing that.
Yeah, there's this comments from 18-year-old after 18-year-old, but they're doing it while they're holding his penis.
Yes,
for real, by the way.
Yes,
you do get to see the tip.
Yeah.
And a big screen.
Or do you have to?
You do need the big screen for that because you're going to miss it otherwise.
But it was.
He's definitely not known for that.
But you have this weird justification where he's like, "Well, no, like I mean, technically, I'm actually younger than most of those women." I'm like going, "Okay." Two things wrong with that. One, that seems like a stupid justification. And two, when you say that you have a mind of a much younger person, they usually use that to talk about somebody who's like really mentally deficient and can't live on their own. So you have the mind of a 14-year-old. Great. Here's your helmet with your name on it. Go on your way.
Yeah, I think he was referring to his enthusiasm and his lack of respect for establishments.
The grossness of it, like that's what
gross.
made me think it's that justification. It's dumb, that phrasing, because it's like if you are actually saying that, no, you are in trouble in a very real way.
I liked how outspoken he was, but I didn't like the character.
No, I don't think you're supposed to.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, this guy is morally questionable to begin with, and sometimes turns against his friend.
Yes.
Because, I don't know, he doesn't want to go down with him, really. He's going to side with the government or whatever. But
then he hooks up with his ex-girlfriend, too.
Right?
Oh, yeah, thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was happening there. That relationship sort of confused me. It seemed like with both instances, it was like by being together, it was a surrogate for both of them having Tommy around.
I think
that is part of it.
Because he was working across the lake that he'd built his house on, that Bowie had built his house on, and then left to marry Lou. Mm-hmm. So I think in the wake of him leaving to go live in the desert, I think something was forming there that was just completely off screen.
That's part of it, but I think also part of it was supposed to represent how these people were responsible for taking everything that was his, including the only woman that he had cared about beyond his wife.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. See, and I don't know why, like when the government comes in, say like he's been, as you said, disturbing the economic growth of the country and it's happening too fast or whatever, and then they off his manager.
That made me so upset.
But they don't kill him. Like, it didn't make
because they wanted to study him because they knew he was an alien. There's a scene right at the very beginning of the movie where you see the guy in the car who sees him.
Yeah. There's a guy up on the hill.
Up on the hill too. That's right. Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's that scene where they hint that somebody already knows that he's here and that he's an alien,
and they've known the whole time.
Well, he is answering. There's one line I think he's answering questions. He says, "No, I came here alone." And then they re-show that shot where somebody sees him. Mm-hmm. So that's part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you wonder who's leaked what, and they've always known, and it goes back to that scene. And you got to pay really close attention. This is a pause if you're going to go to the bathroom kind of thing.
Because the whole movie's like that.
Yeah,
even though it's 2 hours and 15 minutes long, you can't miss anything.
Yeah, it is.
It's insane how much is packed into that. 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Because it's weird when I watched this, and I was kind of writing down certain things as I was just like, it's melodramatic. Oh, the acting's kind of bad, but it's kind of charming and a little bit surreal, which I like, but it's really slow. And then in the end, I'm like, did I enjoy that? I don't know, but I sure like thinking about it.
And it is one of those kinds of movies because it is.
Yeah.
It's not really a coherent story. I mean, that's why your question about what do you think it's about is so important.
Yes,
because it's going to be different things for everybody.
Yeah,
to a certain extent.
See, when you were talking about like how it was like alienation, and I get that. I think in a certain respect, when you're talking about how he didn't want those human connections, I think isolation is also part of it too.
Oh, for sure.
Like he is complete. Like he is. Even though there's other people around, he's ultimately completely isolated because other creatures like himself aren't there.
Yeah. I mean, if you pay attention, and I didn't even realize it until I had lined up some of these clips for this episode, and when he talks about the X-ray on the eyes, I'm like, wait a minute, he's already knows what's going to happen. And there's a point where he talks about, and it's a hint about his relationship, where he has no desire to see this through with Mary Lou. No. Like there is an end point. There's a futility to the whole thing. And that's all foreshadowed too. Everything's foreshadowed in this movie, but unless you go back and see those moments again, you might miss it because of the non-linear nature of this film.
For sure. I mean, and the funny thing is, the story is told in a linear nature.
It is,
but the story itself is not.
Yeah,
it's so much fun to actually think about it and watch it.
Yeah,
and
you get to the end, and you're like, oh shit, we knew this was coming this whole time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And there's a great bit again at the end where he's talking to Bryce, and he asks, he says, have you been seeing much of Mary Lou? He fucking knows that that Mary Lou and Bryce are together.
Yeah.
Right. And he knows that Bryce is going to lie to him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you can see it. You can see it in his face. And I mean, the Bowie's delivery of lines was not that great in this movie, but his facial expressions were amazing.
Yeah, but his lines didn't need to be delivered well because of the alien nature of the character. So it's very forgiving. There's other characters that are just like, whoa, is Mary Lou a psycho?
Oh, I have a real question.
I have some things to mention about Mary Lou as well. But
is it Mary Jo or Mary Lou?
Mary Lou, yeah.
Oh, Mary Lou. Was every time I watched her, I couldn't figure it out. Is she supposed to be like drunk the entire time?
Yes, the alcoholism is a theme in this movie. I wanted to mention that too, but that's
okay.
But did you notice that? And there's a really neat thing happening there. Is the whole time that she's with Thomas, she's always wearing a new wig or changing her hairstyle, right? So she's masking things. She's playing dress up all the time, not realizing that Thomas is way outdoing her. Right?
Oh yeah,
because
Tommy's doing the ultimate costume.
We're doing the ultimate costume. Like he's the master of disguise. And I'd never caught that before. But I was watching this. I'm like, oh, I see what they're doing there. Right?
Yeah.
Is her artifice and her alcoholism are designed to be directly compared to Thomas.
Yeah, I mean initially when he gets there, he's drinking nothing but water, but by the end, he's right on the gin bandwagon.
Alcoholism is very much a theme, and it's a great
bottles
line.
And bottles a day.
Yeah, because he metabolizes it differently than human beings do, obviously as well. But there's that first scene where he's over at Bryce's cabin, and they're taking him back to the car, and there's just one line that's really brief too. If you almost miss it, is where he says, "You put alcohol in my drink." Right
I remember that.
Right, and I was hoping you were actually going to use that one because it was funny.
No,
but you need the context for it in order for it to be funny.
Exactly. But I mean, these little things that happen in the movie that become so important.
Yeah,
but I wonder if also part of it, like the alcoholism, it's part of it is how you would kind of self-medicate when you experience so much and realize the futility of all of it.
Quieted his mind a lot.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's why he started doing it because
and Mary Lou, it's just party time for Mary Lou all the time. She gets all this wild, crazy sex all the time.
Didn't he say at one point though? She's like, "What happens when you drink?" And he says, "I see things." Yeah. So I don't think it quiets his mind. I think it does other stuff.
Maybe it jumbles it all up.
It may.
Maybe it makes it more bearable.
Possibly, but yeah, I like the way that they gently escalated it too, because it started with the water, and then they start talking about alcohol, and then she comes in and says, "I got that white Riesling that you like so much," right? And it's like, oh, he's drinking alcohol now, right? Ooh. And then later on, he's drinking the Beefeater, right? And clearly they got some budget money from that because those Beefeater bottles are everywhere,
very prominently displayed.
Yeah, so they show the progression of his alcoholism.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because, like when he's spends that first night with Candy, she's the only one drinking. Yeah. He's drinking water. But, when she brings I brought that Riesling you like, and she's like, it's warm, I hope that's okay. What she does, she pours him a glass and then puts it on top of the fridge. Put it in the fridge. That made me so mad.
I guess it is okay.
If
you're worried about it being cold, put it in the fridge.
That's what you do with white wines. Chill them just a little bit. But yeah, it was funny because you made a good point there. It's like they make a comment about it not being cold and then leave it out anyhow.
Yeah. Again, who knows? That's probably another message. Like it's just.
Yeah, there's so much subtext in this movie. I mean, Tevis has said that this book does directly relate to his own alcoholism and his own alienation. He had felt alienated as a young person and was drinking to self-medicate his feelings. So. Sure, that's that theme's going to translate through into the movie.
Yeah, because you get the feeling like, you want to self-medicate because the futility and loneliness will just, either you do that or you have to feel it.
Yeah, but there's a point there when he decides that he is going to leave and he goes out to that ramshackle little cabin out in the desert, right? Where you get the impression that he's doing better, right? Shortly after that, that's when it jumps ahead in time. You can tell it's jumped ahead in time. You don't know how far, right? But now they're getting ready to launch the spaceship.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and it's very public, but I guess you can't keep something like that a secret.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's
Well, it's a
very
Richard
public.
Branson type of event.
It is,
Yeah.
and actually, Richard Branson was popping into my head as I'm like, oh, this is so Richard Branson. I wonder how many times he's seen this movie.
Yep, right? Because he gets something like that put together, you know it's going to be like that.
Oh, it's going to be a spectacle, and it was. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Now we've got like classic big cars floating around in space because of these eclectic rich people.
Yes. Yes. But
Oh my God,
he
are
had
the
a
rich
purpose.
people aliens?
And you know what? Maybe.
I'm okay with that. They seem to be good people.
I don't know. Elon Musk
these
is a
two.
little bit alien looking.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And his name is Elon.
Yeah. He wasn't born
Elon
here.
Musk sounds made up. It sounds like an alien landed, went to a pharmacy, and just looked around. Elon, like that name, Musk?
Musk.
Yes.
Yeah. He was in the perfume department.
yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because you couldn't help but draw that comparison when you were watching that particular scene, and that scene's fun because you actually have one of the original astronauts from the '69 moon landing, I think it is, on
Yes.
Yes.
in that scene, and then you also have a writer that we've actually talked about, Terry Southern, is also in that scene as an uncredited cameo. Yeah, and I can't remember what it was. One of the he wrote one of the movies we've covered. I can't remember which one off the top of my head, but I know that we've talked about him.
If you guys know, let us know because we don't remember shit.
Yeah, yeah. If we don't go back and look, we're
So yeah, sorry, I'm just getting onto something. I'm like, because I want to get to discussing it, where we're discussing like the experience of time, but like the reason why he's here is because his planet is dying because there's no water. So he's come here for water.
I either feel like it's been like that for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how they get around on these monorails.
yeah.
I'm guessing it's not a high populated planet.
It looks like a sail type of scenario, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's
Well, I'm just wondering how they don't run into other people if there's only like one rail. I guess you can only go one direction.
Right? Maybe.
yeah. I had some issues with that myself.
Yeah.
And the
That's
fact
his comments of the trains are really weird here.
Maybe
yes,
it's like this-
yeah, and
yeah.
that was fun actually
Yeah.
when you make to make the comparison. But if they have all this technology that he's brought with him, you don't really see that when they show you the scenes on his planet. And that'd be one of the things I would change is make what they do have deteriorating, but visibly more technologically advanced.
Yeah.
Right? Because it didn't coalesce properly for me.
Right.
I would say, yeah, make that impact where you can have all the technology you want, but if you don't have water, you're going to die.
Exactly. I think it would just add another layer to the film. And I mean, I think the suits they were wearing, I think they were actually designed to conserve water and recapture water from the air and from their own
Sweat
and urine and all that stuff. It was a reclamation system because it looked like it with the hoses and everything.
Yeah, it totally looked like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think that they're talking about the time. He is even. I think when he was on his home planet, he didn't get that same sensation of all time, right? I think that it wasn't until he came to Earth that somehow affected him. They don't. I mean, obviously, they don't explain how this happens because it sort of left you to infer that this is happening to him, and we could even be way off base. I don't think we are though.
Yeah. Although I was kind of confused. I'm like, if he could get here, how did he? He obviously must have used some sort of vehicle. Why didn't it? Probably would have been cheaper in the long run to reclaim the vehicle that he crashed, but if it was even repairable, and why didn't he bring the rest of his family?
And that was the thing. And maybe it was simply because he didn't know if he was going to make it or not.
Yeah.
And I think the ship was they could only build a one-person ship.
Yeah,
right. And that's why he couldn't use it to bring the water home.
And I'm wondering why he was like building such a small one to go back. It was almost like he was not planning to return to Earth.
No, I had issues with that actually, because Bryce even says, "Well, this is really small, right?" You could.
I mean, granted, look what they lived in.
Yeah,
as a family, like space wasn't really a thing. They had a lot of space. They could have made it bigger, I suppose, but
they could have. But
existed in this tiny little thing.
It was like a little mud hut on a monorail. It just didn't make sense.
No,
that was the one thing in the movie that I just really couldn't wrap my head around
to even build something. I guess. But why is their technology so advanced?
Exactly.
So, I don't know. There's a lot of things that don't make a lot of sense, but that's not what the movie's about.
It's not.
Yeah.
Right? But there are also things that cause you to disconnect from the movie a little bit when you see those things. It's like, well, that does not make sense to me.
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't match up with what we
Yeah.
know about his life on Earth.
Yeah.
And the
And it
visuals,
has
of,
to.
visuals of his family dying, that was...
That was amazing, actually. I mean, I won't say I enjoyed it because it's quite emotionally affecting, right? But it was very powerful.
Because I remember him talking about when we were discussing time, it's sort of he experiences it all at once, but the worst, like what he could be is experiencing it all at once, but he's aware that from a certain standpoint, it's going in a certain direction, and there's not enough of it for him to get all the water and get home to save his family.
Yeah, and I think that to a certain extent, I think because there's always a hopefulness about Thomas, right? I think that he was hoping that he could change time. Right? He's hoping that he could do something to keep what he knows is going to happen from happening.
Yeah, because there is a certain inevitability of seeing and existing in all time. By the end, when we have that visit with Rip Torn, he's pretty much broken.
Yep.
And is he had enough? Yeah, I think he's had enough.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they just let him go.
They just let him go. And it's that line says so much more than just like, okay, yeah, he's had enough alcohol. Like, I think he's had enough of us, this planet, and everything else.
Absolutely.
They've taken his eyes. Like they've done all these experiments to him, but locked him up in a really nice hotel when they did it.
It's the weirdest place. Well, it's a really nice hotel
It's kind of
when you
falling
get
apart.
inside, but like
I guess they couldn't take all of his money per se, but they could keep him from making more.
No, and
They took his businesses and everything.
Yeah, they refer back to that. That's one of the lines at the end. Is like, do you and Mary Lou, do you need money? Does Mary Lou need money? Because money I have.
Yeah.
Right. They and he actually, I think he says they couldn't take that away from me.
Right, because there's nothing illegal with what he did.
No.
Nope.
No. And he's just making more. I mean, he's now got a hit album.
Yeah.
I love that reference to him being a musician.
I thought it was really funny where Mary Lou takes him to church, introduces him to faith or whatever, and he starts singing badly.
Yes.
And I'm like, there's something really ironic about Bowie trying to sing badly.
Yes.
And then it translates to a new record.
Yes. Yeah, no, I did like that because again, you've got that juxtaposition of him not singing well in that particular situation, right?
You get the juxtaposition of, wasn't there a thing that he had a contract, and what he did was he put out an album that he wanted to tank because he wanted out of that contract? Like, he provided the album, but he didn't try very hard on it.
I think there's more than one of those actually from him.
Yeah, but I think that was like the whole point. Like, he did do that. So like, him singing badly is that album, and then later on is when he was starting doing his own stuff. That's his real album.
It's like he learned so much from this movie.
Yes, it really is.
Yep.
And I mean, and the funny thing is he was supposed to do the soundtrack for this movie as well.
Yeah.
But
I think he still had a lot of say in the movie, in the soundtrack in general. But
I think to a certain extent, he had a little bit of say in the music direction for sure. But there are two albums that came out of this that he did release eventually that were largely material that was originally written for the movie.
Yeah, none of it's in the movie.
No, none of it.
No, but the soundtrack is interesting nonetheless.
It is.
It's definitely unique because it's this kind of awkward and unsettling noises in a lot of cases.
I mean, the sound design is really actually quite interesting and there's some things that I mean, there's some really horrible music in here, but it's perfect for the scene.
Yeah.
Right, like there's that one really bad country western song. It belonged there.
Yeah, but even just some of like the sounds in the background, it's like this is just the oddest, weirdest movie.
Yeah.
Like even the soundtrack is just unconventional, and I can't think of another movie like it.
No, and I think that's what makes it worthy of the Criterion Collection. Right, is it is so unique.
It's so experimental.
Yeah, and I mean, people say that it's Rogue's best work. Right? And I mean, this is a guy who's got a big body of work. Yeah, and they come back to this one as his piece de resistance.
Well, you think this guy made Witches and Don't Look Now, and you would like, is this the same guy? Like,
yeah. Well, it's
so avant-garde.
Looks a lot of it looks very great. Like, you can tell he has a vision of what he needs.
Yeah.
In the scene, like, there's what I'd say like a Kubrickian level of detail in so many parts of it. Like even going to where he's in that like hotel and they have the ping pong table and there's that door with like the ferns on it.
Yeah.
But everything, all the garbage on the floor is very like it looks a particular way. It makes you feel a certain way. When
It does, and that's the beauty of this movie is even if you like, even again, it's so long, but even with the little dialogue it has, every scene makes you feel something. Every single scene makes you feel something.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, even if it's through set deck or art design or the music you're hearing or the line deliveries and the emotion of the characters, because like you'll see like Mary Lou freaking out on Thomas, on David Bowie, and it's so like melodramatic and it seems so ridiculous. In a lot of ways, it's like, what are you even arguing about?
Yes,
Yeah.
and they're
she's got abandonment issues.
She does, and she's an alcoholic.
Yeah,
right. So and alcoholics flip out about the weirdest things too, right?
And you don't know what mood you're going to get into when you see them.
But when you see it, like even though it seems ridiculous, it doesn't seem out of place.
Exactly. Right, and that's the thing is it really establishes her character.
Yeah,
right, and that's what it's there to do is establish that whatever relationship they have is not healthy for him.
Yeah,
and it's not healthy for her because she now has freedom to be in a stupor all the time.
I mean, she's been taken from working in a motel to, becoming his girl Friday for a good half of the film and having all this access to money and never having earned a cent of it.
No, exactly. And it ruins her.
Yeah. She's had this life of luxury handed to her, and she was still in that young party phase, but because she doesn't have to try, she just stayed there.
Yeah. And it's also because she does have access to this money, but again, the isolation, if she was able to have like other external influences, because it's really just her and Tommy the whole time, so there's nobody there to tell her that like, maybe you are drinking too much, maybe this isn't healthy, you need to get out of the house.
Yeah, that's interesting where she's craving the company and he's craving isolation.
Yeah.
And, the isolation of even when they're together, his gradual disinterest in her isolates her even more and just makes her even more crazy.
Yeah, there's that great scene. I've already talked about the scene, but this also emphasizes that point where they're having the fight. He starts hitting those switches to turn on his TVs and cranking him way up. Right, that leads right into that scene where he says, "Get out of my head, get out of my mind."
On the look on his face.
Oh yeah,
it
was great. Again, I talk about the face acting. There's only one scene where I felt it didn't work, but yeah, that reemphasizes that he's trying to disconnect from her because she's starting to ask too much of him.
Yeah.
Which is like terribly upsetting because the whole point is like going, you brought me here, you took me to this place, you're taking me here and cutting me off from everything else and then abandoning me here. Like what? Like I can see why she would freak out because it's sort of like I'm caught in this place. I don't know what to do.
No, and that's fair. Right? I mean, she does get out. I mean, she's the one who goes out and does the shopping. She's the one who goes out and buys the Riesling and clearly the booze.
No, that was before when they became rich and they were living on that lake. I don't think she was getting out that much. She looked forward to their rides in the country, and that was it. That's
a good point, because they just mentioned that. I mean, he was already rich, but he hadn't built the place out on the lake where they were isolated.
Yeah. Earlier, she was a little bit healthier back then as well. You can see her descent a lot as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like that alcoholism is a huge theme all the way through the movie because they even sort of reference Bryce's drinking.
Oh,
to a certain extent.
At the very when they're together, where are they? They're at the liquor store to buy booze again.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I think that Bryce was not as big a drinker at the beginning, but after what he partially was responsible for happening to Thomas, sort of pushed him over that edge as well.
Mm-hmm. I guess another theme of this movie would be just excess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you see it in the televisions. You see it in the drinking. You can see it in the sex scene, the sex scenes with Bryce. Right. Mm-hmm. Excess is a really good one. I missed that one, but that was a good one.
But I wonder too if there isn't a whole thing where it's which is worse, isolation or toxic relationships.
I mean, that's a valid question to come out of it. I'm not sure that they were questioning that at the point.
But if you look through all the relationships, they're either incredibly toxic or the person just wants to be alone.
No, they're not. And I was going to come back to this.
Okay.
Farnsworth and his boyfriend.
Oh, yes, they are the best couple.
They have a great relationship.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate that they get
Farnsworth's
murdered.
Yes.
relationship with Tommy puts a strain on his personal relationship as well.
It does, but again, their relationship is still healthy.
Theirs is, but there's that toxicity.
But there's
of that relationship.
even
is
then,
bad.
it's like, well, it's hard to ignore the money, you know.
Oh no, I get that.
Yeah, and he even says that,
Yeah.
and I love those bits where they do the voiceovers from Farnsworth and Bryce. It only happens twice in the movie. Once when Farnsworth talks about what happens to him.
Most of the main characters get an internal monologue scene, but it never happens again. And again, that's
It's
so
different.
weird. Like, why are we doing this? Like, why
it
is
works.
this? Oh, it does, but
I got confused a couple times.
It's a
though.
little inconsistent. I'm like, okay, not sure why we went from this to this to this. And, I was fine with it, but I'm like, even on a filmmaker standpoint, I'm like, oh, that one kind of bugs me because But I think that's to give you a disjointed narrative.
Yeah,
It does wrong foot you because when you use that when
you're
that
not
device
sure who to follow, and then you get the monologue, and then you don't see the characters for a while.
Yeah.
when the device is used in normal movies, that's exactly what you're getting at. When that device is used, you start hearing the monologue. Oh, we are now going to experience the story from this character's perspective. That is not at all what happens in this
No,
movie.
in this case, it's almost like it's the end of their journey for a little while before we get back
it
to
is.
them
Right?
again.
It's filling in the story.
Yeah.
right? And that's all it was there to do. But it helped keep you disoriented and disjointed in this movie.
Yeah.
Right? Because it is really disorienting.
Oh yeah, it's like, okay, I'm not sure who I'm supposed to follow now, but
And just watching stuff, I'm like going, I'm wondering a couple times, like, is this really what's happening? Or is this not? Or is this an imagining of what happened?
yeah. And I think that's the beauty of this film is there's so many things, so many themes, and so many ways to interpret it, and you're not going to find them all.
No.
No matter how many times you watch this movie.
No, it's because you're going to find things in here that weren't even intended.
Yeah.
Because it's so dense, right? Like there's so many sub stories in there that you can find that kind of manifest through this telling of the story that you're like, oh yeah, there's something else we talk about. Like as you mentioned, that feeling of isolation and loneliness versus the toxic relationship. I'm sure that was not intended as a theme, but it certainly is there.
That's the wonderful thing about this is sort of, I think it's with this experimentation with the structure, with the tone, with how to make this movie, you can get some amazing stuff out of it. Like unintended consequences of what you've created.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what makes it a great film. And I'm hesitant to use the word cult film because this movie is beyond cult as far as I'm concerned. I think it got the cult status because smart people gravitated towards it and watched it and made it popular after a failed theatrical release or a very mediocre theatrical release. Right? And I think that's the very definition of a cult film is it failed in the theaters but found a new audience after its release on video and on television and that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Right? And this movie actually did make it onto the BBC. They edited the heck out of the sex scenes, but apparently Initially, they did when they first put it out there, but as time passed, they just threw it out on there as is, unedited, because it's important. Yeah.
Well, and
as to part of the story. I mean, that theme of excess is lost if you don't have all the sex scenes and all the nudity and all the drinking, and I mean that's a huge chunk of movie.
And absolutely and also kind of British television, they're much less hung up.
They are
on
more
seeing
liberal.
nudity.
Yeah.
Like they're like nudity is fine, and they're like violence we might have a bit of a problem with, which to me seems the right way round.
It really does. And there's almost no violence in this movie at all.
No,
that's true. Other than Farnsworth getting tossed out of a window,
which was so hard because they had to do it twice.
He bounced off the window the first time.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, and
we'll get it. Don't worry, we'll get it.
Yeah, it's so tragic because he bounces off. He says, "No, I'm not ready to go. I'll do whatever you want." And there's like this. It just created this incredibly powerful, poignant moment. It's like it's where he knew they were coming and he was prepared for the consequences of it.
Yeah.
And then feeling the pain of hitting the window and the realization that he is going to die, he's prepared to betray Thomas as well.
Yeah. Was
It's so
Peters
horrifying.
in that
Right.
scene? I know Peters was basically the guy who took over the corporation.
No, he wasn't.
No, he sent goons.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because he's the guy who runs the corporation, and you can see the excesses also hit him pretty good because his family's living in luxury, and
Yeah.
Yeah,
he gets his own little sex scene too.
Yes, he does.
Everybody does.
Yeah, everybody does.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who didn't. Arthur?
Arthur, yeah, can we talk about Arthur? I think we talked about him briefly before we started recording, but he was I don't want to say he was underused because he was used just right, but what was missing for me was there was one great scene where he's in the back of the car watching TV eating his dinner, and that's really hit home. It's like, okay, they should go, well, wait a minute, they're out in this isolated area, and where does Arthur live?
I know, like Arthur's
Right?
just kind of glued to him, and in the end is pretty much responsible for is the catalyst of the betrayal of Thomas, where he's been taken by the government. He flips to the other side.
Yeah,
real fast.
and locks Thomas in the back of his own limo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And then drives him to his own incarceration. It's horrible, and you hate Arthur for it.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
But if you saw just one or two more scenes where you sort of show how Arthur's not really appreciated by Thomas, right? By like spending his time living in the back of the limo,
right.
essentially.
Well, you're right. He's at his beck and call 24/7.
Yeah, he's doing everything that Thomas needs him to do, and he's not getting anything out of this. He's not being bought a house, and
He's not getting. I mean, he's getting paid. But,
given a cabin to some chemist who's being paid to fish.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
all these guys who are doing fuck all for him, and here's this guy who's like waiting on hand and foot, and he gets to sleep in the limo.
Yeah.
and use the mini bar.
Yeah, exactly. Right, and
Well, not
that
really.
scene-
He's supposed to be the driver, so he can't even do
So
that.
he can't
That
even do that.
sucks.
He's got to keep the mini bar full for the alcoholic alien.
Yeah, and that just made me so sad,
Yeah.
right? Because I think that scene was way too brief to sort of really capture it and sort of hint at why Arthur would betray him.
Yeah. Because isn't he on the phone at one point in the limo talking to somebody we don't know?
Yeah,
Yes.
he is.
Yeah, like there should have been maybe more of that. Like, because when it happened, I was like, oh no! Like I kind of was surprised by it.
Hey, car phone in 1976.
Yeah.
He really was an alien.
Yeah.
Self-developing film.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we have to talk about in the remake is how would we change the technology, because a lot of that stuff kind of already happens.
I want the camera that has the photo booth ring in it right away. I still want that camera. It looks awesome.
It does kind of look awesome. Yeah, but on the whole, I mean, this is a movie. This may be one of the ones where we go, geez, you know what? Maybe we didn't make the best decision to try and remake this.
It's gonna be
No, in my decision, it was actually a recommendation, and it was kind of for me of like, oh, this will be a good way to kind of talk about Bowie, and it's something we kind of wanted to do.
Yeah.
And updating, like recasting this will be fun.
Yes.
Trying to remake it is going to be very difficult.
There are a few things that you can I would tighten up. I would add more Arthur.
Yeah. I think there's a story to be told there. Maybe be slightly more obvious about the foreshadowing that's going on. I do like the unlinear way of telling the story and all the foreshadowing. Maybe nah. You know what? I think maybe leading the audience would be a mistake.
I think so, because it's such an intelligent story, and it really is. I mean, it's the least sciencey science fiction film you'll ever see.
It is. I love that Bowie says, "I'm not a scientist."
Yes.
No.
Right.
This alien that's had 8 patents that he brought with him to become rich is not a scientist.
Yeah, and I mean, well, it could be. It would simply be like this. Like, imagine if we were like kind of at that advanced stage, and what you could do is like go into a book and get all the specs for.
And that, I think that's
something,
essentially what he did.
And then bring it to another planet, and all of a sudden you're a god.
Paper, which, how did he get paper on an alien planet? But he would have had to memorize it and then jot them down here, because there's no plants on that planet.
But there's like
little
scrubby
plastic
little
screens.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that he that's why there's that really great scene where he's talking to Farnsworth, and he says, "No, I can't leave them with you," because he doesn't have it in his head.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? He can't recreate it.
That's right.
I think that's part of his reluctance to leave it. But you're supposed to think
he didn't realize there were photocopiers in 1976.
that. But yeah, I think what you're supposed to think.
But he did understand economics.
Yes, and I think that was what you're supposed to think, is that he was thinking, well, you'll copy them and steal them.
Right.
And that's what you're supposed to think. But I think it has largely to do with the fact that he only had that. That was all he had. That was his ticket home.
Yeah.
Right?
You betcha.
And there's no way he was getting out of his sight, because he wouldn't be able to do it again or create new patents.
Yeah.
And then he'd really well and truly be stuck, and he would have failed absolutely spectacularly, and that would have been heartbreaking for him.
Yes, and unfortunately, in the end, it does end up happening.
But at least at that point, he's trying.
I mean, outside of the technology, you can, if you wanted to keep it like this, I mean, I think this is a case of you're going to need another visionary type of filmmaker to kind of make it its own, and we can't predict what that's going to look like. Yeah, you can update the technology, change it. It doesn't have to be a camera. It could be whatever fuck you want.
Yeah.
Whatever these patents are, you can make them a little more fantastic. I mean, in the day of, iPhones and Apples and stuff, I mean, the next thing he'd have to do is, you could even make a nod to that camera. He puts out a new phone that can print Polaroid, because there's something about a tactile picture, right? Yeah. It's just, you can't get that out of a digital. If you could instantly hit print on your camera, on your phone without it being any bigger than it is, now that would be something. And maybe a projection screen where you get a hologram popping up, or
an interactive screen that you can touch, like
very Tony Stark.
Or even like with the other reasons why he would employ a chemical engineer is you have the picture on your phone, and all you do is like tap it on a piece of paper, and it automatically transfers something weird like that.
Smell-o-vision?
Yeah. And you're right, the technology itself doesn't matter.
No.
But I do
it's just
want
a catalyst.
Yeah, I just want to go back to the name of the company. Okay, there's World Enterprises, and I love the fact
that world?
Well, there's that too, but they abbreviated it as We.
Yeah.
Right? And I like there's something about calling the company We.
Yeah.
Nintendo might have a problem.
That's cool.
That.
I didn't notice that, but what I appreciated was something different, where I liked the fact that it was such a blah. It's one of those blah names that could be a very nefarious company.
Yeah.
World Enterprises doesn't tell you anything.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't tell you anything, and I think that was very deliberate, right? That was very deliberate. It was a reference to which world, time, space, but because even there's one TV ad that they play on, there's at least one where they put on the screen, we helps you, right? Or we bring in the future, or we are bringing the future forward, or something along those lines.
I think
right?
we being him and his family, essentially.
Yes, exactly. And I think they thought it was just a genius way to sort of bring that all back in, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, and I don't think Nintendo would have a problem with it, because it's WE, not WII, and.
Yeah, no. I'm just cracking joke.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? Maybe Bowie's his character invented the Wii.
Yes.
Who knows? Right. Maybe he's the president of Nintendo.
There we go.
Who knows? But yeah, there's not. I don't think I'd change a lot of this movie. Like I said, there's very little that you can tighten up.
There's probably quickening up the pace a little bit to shave it into about a 2-hour scenario, because even as much as I was fascinated by this film, it goes on, and it does feel a bit tedious at times.
Mm-hmm. There are a few scenes that could certainly be tightened up or shortened, right, or sped up, right?
Or eliminated entirely. Does every character have to be kind of reprehensible?
I think so.
I think I would have liked to have seen this more optimistic teacher that you kind of see in Rip Torn, and getting involved in Thomas's world and his de-evolution as well, and in this world where it's like, here's this alien, and this is the dream come true, and I'm working for this guy who I'm really fascinated with, and he's an alcoholic, and he's got a trashy girlfriend, and he's just as bad as everybody
going
else.
With that. I
mean, you can change the messages in this movie
a little bit. Yeah, I like the idea of keeping that him as being a bit of a womanizer and kind of slimy.
Well, I'd like to see where his moral turns are, because he does turn on Thomas.
Yeah, he does, but
we don't get a lot of reason for it.
We don't get a lot of reason for it. But I mean, you do see one when he gets hired by World Enterprises. I mean, he stops womanizing. He's pretty much stops drinking.
Yeah.
Right? He's found his purpose again.
Yeah,
right?
he kind of outgrew it. I think he was kind of treading water in this world.
He was disillusioned. He wasn't feeling challenged anymore, right?
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, I guess we do see it.
Yeah. But it really emphasize it a little bit more, I think, is what we need to do. And then because then you get that fun double turn, right?
Yeah.
Where he goes from being really enthusiastic and inspired by this change in his life, and then he meets Thomas, and he's fascinated by him, but he's also appalled by him. Right? And I think that scene, there's that scene where he's trying to take the photograph of him, that kind of hints at that. But because there's so little dialogue and there's nobody for him to talk to explain why he's doing what he's doing, you have to infer it.
And I think I like to, well, I guess, I mean, the movie already does this, but accentuate with Mary Lou, like, there's this kind of, when you're in your 20s, there's this kind of partying innocence, right?
Yeah.
Like, this misunderstanding of consequences. And I feel like with Bowie and Mary Lou, there's this mutual level of corruption to their innocence because they're both really innocent.
At the beginning of the movie, absolutely.
In very different ways.
Yeah.
See, but I would also have the other bit too, where it's you can kind of show like Mary Lou when they're finally kind of like together, like in your 20s, you're like, oh, okay, now I'm living with somebody in a relationship. I'm a grown up now. This is gonna last forever. Like just that innocence to the reality of what's actually going on.
And I think they kind of both have that. Like he's already quickly developed a big organization and equity, and I don't think either one of them have experienced these kind of consequences. So it's like she's shows him how to party, and he's got the resources to keep the party going forever.
Yeah. They corrupt each other to a certain extent, right?
They really do.
They do, and I think there's other ways
right.
you can do it in the film.
I'd want a moment. I'd want some of it. I need a little bit more waffling, I think, with Mary Lou, where she knows the party's like kind of ending, and she understands it can't go on forever, but she still does it anyway because there's that destructive streak in her.
Yeah, and we don't get to see her world. Like, she just quickly runs off with him. We don't see what she's leaving behind.
No, not at all. I mean, she mentions it a little bit the first time they get into the limo, but that's about it. Right? And then, of course, when he leaves to go to the cabin, she's gone. Right? She's gone until after his downfall. Right? You never see or hear from her again. Again, part of the way the story is told is to keep you disjointed and disoriented and find out what's happening. But you're also really kind of confused, like we mentioned before, when she shows up again, right? And she's with Bryce.
It took me a minute to figure out who that was for a second because she'd been gone so long. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, at one point I thought, that doesn't look like her, but is
that's the voice?
Well,
right?
Well, initially I thought she was with Peters.
Yeah.
I'm like, did she marry that guy?
Right.
Did everybody betray Thomas? And like, nope. Because she turns up a little bit later.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, that's her.
Yeah.
So I'm like, who's that?
Right.
Oh, who cares? She's not important.
Yeah, and she's just Peter's
She's
wife.
just Peter's wife,
Yeah. But at first I'm like...
I thought. But
Yeah,
Me too.
I don't remember that her being part of the people that betrayed him.
Oh, no, I don't think she was.
No, because she's for all of the things
She's
that happened
a
to her, she
pawn.
was still really innocent.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, even when she shows up at his hotel and has sex with him again, and they have that this wonderful discussion, she still has that innocence about her. And I think that has a lot to do with Candy Clark, the way she delivers a line and the way she speaks. But she conveyed that innocence to this. Like, she's never really changed. Because she's happiest when she's been drinking, and she's never really grown up.
Well, I don't know if it's so much innocence. She's really in a very big state of arrested development. Yeah. She's not grown up, because
she's childish.
She's
you're
given
right.
enough money to keep going. She doesn't have to change because there's nothing forcing her to.
Yeah, you're right. So it's not innocence so much as a childishness about
yeah,
her.
when Bowie says, if I stay here, I'll die, like I think even though he's going through his own kind of descent, if he stays, he's never going to accomplish his goal of finishing off the ship and anything else because so much of his focus is being drawn away by Mary Lou. And when he goes off and introduces himself to Rip Torn and they start working, like, he never does go back to the house.
See,
he leaves her there.
And again, this is another thing where, like, you can watch the movie and two different experiences happen. When he said, if I stay here, I'll die, I was taking it like, if I stay here on Earth, my family will die, and then inside me, I will die.
And there's some of that too.
Oh yeah, I think like that's so much meaning to those words.
Yes, that's exactly it. And that's what makes the dialogue in this movie work so well, is because
there's so much planning in that dialogue.
There was, and there's almost no wasted dialogue. Right? It all every part of the dialogue tells a story for you. It's up to you to interpret what story you're getting, though.
Yeah, it's sparse. And we've gone through
That's amazing.
how many themes now we've talked about that are in this movie. It's about so much,
and it's and each of us
in a lot of ways about the human condition.
Yes,
it's how you, and it's sort of part of who you are is your experience of the film. Like that's what makes what you see the most, I think.
Well, for sure. I mean, like I said, I've seen this movie multiple times. I've probably seen it half a dozen times. This watching in particular, I took a lot more away from it because I'm older, right? I mean, the last time I saw it was probably 20 years ago, right? So my mind is different now.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm taking away different things from it. Right? I mean, the last time I watched it, I know I was still stunned by how visually creative this movie is, right? But I still missed a lot of what was happening in the movie still.
Like I said, you're never going to catch it all in your first viewing. Never.
Or even after 6. I know there's still stuff in there that I haven't seen.
Yeah,
that
well,
I didn't catch.
there were realizations when I was putting these clips together that I wouldn't have made if I hadn't have got to go back and see those
There's
little bits
nothing
again.
better than the holy shit moments.
I was like, oh, come on.
When you mentioned that, I was like, crap, now I have to go watch more clips because I've obviously missed a lot.
Yeah, I could see your eyes widen up when I brought it up. It's like, wait, what? He's experienced time simultaneously? What? And then I get to see the realization. Oh, he's right.
yeah. And sometimes you have to see the clips out of context in order to catch it.
Yeah, and that was it. It was just like, oh, wow. So when I was lining all that stuff up last night, I'm like, damn, I'm glad I did this because it just opens up a whole new part of the conversation that I might not have had.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if with this movie, what you could do is if you chose your chapters wisely, you could have a variety pack where it would just be like a shuffle on random and it wouldn't affect the movie at all.
It probably wouldn't.
It would be a wonderful piece. I'd want to do that. That would be awesome. Just try and watch it all the different ways. Just have it on random.
There you go. That's how you re-release the movie. Every little area re-edits it in a different order. Hit the randomizer.
Yes.
Yeah.
That could be interesting. It could be a very interesting experience.
I mean, because time isn't important in this movie.
No, it's not.
Linearity isn't important.
No. I mean, it is told in a linear way, but you could easily put this out of order and it won't make a damn bit of difference.
No.
Absolutely.
Well, it would get to be a little confusing at points, but I think
not much more.
Not much more, though. No, no. I think the last sequence always has to be the last sequence.
Oh yeah, I think that would always default.
Yeah, you have to.
But the rest of the movie, you could absolutely be told out of sequence. Yeah,
I think you have to do it because the credits are there. So like the beginning with the credits at the beginning and the credits at the end, they're always going to be at the beginning and the end. Everything in between.
FYI, if I'm going to be held prisoner, I'd like to have room service and a
martini not too cold.
Martini not too cold, and a ping pong table in a forest.
I love that room. It's so weird. I know it looks so trashy, weird. But it's so fun. And like the door is covered in that pattern as well, which is great.
I mean, as somebody who grew up in a house that had a basement that was in a Hawaiian theme, it literally had a palm tree in the basement.
Yeah.
Nice.
This fake palm tree growing up. I'm like, all right, I can dig this room. Because it's
feels of home.
Yeah, makes me feel at home in this weird Hawaiian cave that I spent a lot of my childhood in.
And they're dressed up in like full, like kind of posh tennis wear to play ping pong.
Yeah, so they had so much fun doing this movie. And there's that great scene where she brings home the suit, the blue suit. And she says, your new suit came in, it's blue. It's the same cut. He goes, no. He just goes, no.
She also says it's not your color, but asks him about it anyway. And I'm like, yeah, of course it's a no. You're both saying it's a no.
Yeah.
It's weird that they left him with a gun loaded with blanks, like this torture. Like they keep doing experiments on him, but they're like, there's no way out of this.
Well, didn't he
It's
say at
almost
one
like this
point,
weird
I've
message.
been paying them, he tells her, but I don't know if that's like the narrative, but I don't know if he has the blanks because they think he might try to kill himself and they're worried. But I mean, if you hold a blank to your head, you can die. That happened to an actor in the 80s. I remember it very vividly.
It happened to Jason Lee.
Yeah, no, not Jason Lee.
Brandon Lee.
Brandon Lee.
Yeah, but that was and John Eric Hexum, who was fooling around. Boom.
Yeah, things get wedged in there. I was like, every time they fired that thing off at each other, I was like,
me out.
Okay, please don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, but yeah,
I mean, he's sticking it in his mouth.
Right.
There's some, like, even though he tells you it's blanks, it's so oddly disturbing.
It's too close to people at points. I'm like, even if it's a blank, I don't want it that close to my body.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you can tell when they'll cut a little bit and it'll go kind of dark as it fires off to accentuate the flare, but you can see it's tilted away from wherever it was pointing, just enough to kind of fake it.
Yeah, they weren't taking any chances.
No.
Right, but yeah, and I think
it's a scary scene.
It is. It's a very scary scene.
Petrifying.
Yeah. I think that the giving them the gun with the blanks is you're like you said is there's no way for you to end this, but we're going to taunt you with it. You can have the gun,
and again,
terrific.
No consequences.
No. It's a really depressing movie.
Yeah.
It's really depressing.
Yeah.
For all its beauty, it's a very depressing movie.
Well, when you talk about depressing, at the very end, when he mentions they're talking about the album, and he talks about how he made it for his wife, and like eventually she'll hear it on the radio waves, and I'm like, oh, but didn't we see her die?
Mm-hmm.
And
again,
I got
that goes
very
back to the whole
sad.
time thing, right?
Yeah. You know, I think I thought of just an interesting way to remake this movie, and it may fail miserably, but turning it into a musical based on Bowie tunes. And still keeping the narrative.
Works for Mamma Mia, and that was ABBA.
I mean, it would be very different. I don't know if that would work, but I've been kind of wanting one. Like a Bowie musical.
There is one.
Why not do it like this?
Which one?
That would be amazing.
It's on Broadway right now, and I'll be darned if I can remember the name of it now. But
well, that doesn't help me now. Fucking does it?
No. But yeah, no, there is a musical, and I've heard rumors already that they're talking about doing a film version of it.
Okay, well, but this would work. I think it would be interesting. I mean, it would be a very different kind of watch, but maybe that's what this kind of needs, because you can't remake this film and keep the impact. I mean, you can make it the same way, just maybe a little slicker if you wanted to, but I don't think that's going to make a difference. I think it's just going to be an inferior clone in the long run.
And that's the concern, and that was sort of the point I was trying to make, is that this is such a unique film that any attempt to remake this film is going to be a disservice to the film.
And I think, too, you know what, actually, when you mention the musical aspect of it, like, you know how sometimes you see musicals and you're like, why are these people singing at this point? It seems out of place and disjointed. Musical.
Yeah.
I'm not sold on that idea.
I didn't think you would be, and I'm sure a lot of audience are like, but I mean, it would be fucking different.
Yeah.
I mean, and it would be a good salute to David Bowie.
And what I was about to suggest is you did give me the idea that it would be
utilizing all that stuff that
was intended for the movie in the first place, right? And that I like that idea of using the music that was originally intended for the movie in a remake, right? Because it shows the proper homage to the remake in the sense that this was the movie music intended for it. It shows proper homage to Bowie, who was so amazing in this movie.
I mean, it's completely screws up my casting because I didn't cast with that in mind, but it just kind of occurred to me something different.
Because I don't know, I really enjoy this movie so much. I don't know. There's bits I just want more explanation on, but not too much.
Yeah, there's very few things. Like, there are things you can do to make it. I hate to say it, more watchable film.
It wouldn't necessarily dumb it down.
No,
I think they went overboard in taking the time aspects out of this film. I don't think that would have changed it all that much, because we are getting a sense of time just because of the aging makeup, which, by the way, looks really good even for 1976.
Yeah, it does.
It really does.
You know, it still has a little bit of that, it's not going to look great as great as aging makeup does now. But even then, I don't think it looks great now either.
Well,
but I mean, for 1976, it looked incredible.
What's funny is when I saw Rip Torn as an old man, I'm like, yes, that's right.
Yeah,
I get that.
It was. He was still a little too thin in the face, but otherwise it was like, there's the Rip Torn I know.
It's like they knew.
Yeah, we know what you're going to look like.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
I mean, Mary Lou just looks like her face got stung by a bee because her body didn't change.
No.
I mean, you get another
Actually, you know what?
raging sex scene at the end, and her body is pretty
Still
much the
pretty
20-year-old
awesome.
body, but her face is... Actually, it almost looked like she de-aged in some of the sex scenes, you know,
Yeah.
because you're not seeing the face very quickly, and it's almost like during that time, it's almost like they're showing what she was
Well, I thought
when she was in her 20s.
when we're talking about how he doesn't see her age as old, that's what I
We're
was getting
seeing
from
it through
that.
his perception
Yeah.
at that
Yeah.
point. I think maybe that was what was happening there.
And plus, maybe he can't recognize aging in humans. Like he's not; those aren't the faces he's used to.
Mm-hmm.
So how would he know what's happening?
Well, and, I mean, you're going to be able to see the difference, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
but I mean-
that's, you can't not see it.
If we saw an alien creature, how would we know if it's old or young? We don't know.
I do feel like in some of those scenes, like the aging makeup went away, and I think you're right. I think we were getting it
Thanks.
through a Bowie-esque filter
Yes.
of some sort. Even though we weren't exactly seeing it through his eyes, I think that was the intent of that.
It certainly could have been, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested to hear some casting here. I mean, God knows we could go on another hour trying to assess all the
figures.
little minutia of this film, but we only got so much time here.
Well, it's just so amazing.
Since I know this is Sam's favorite film, I'm going to let him anchor this one.
Okay.
I'll go first. I don't have a
Okay.
lot. I kind of kept my
I'm-
4 primaries. I'm kind of regretting not having time to think of a Peters and an Arthur because I think they're important to the film.
Yeah.
Despite not having, especially Peters, he's only got a couple of scenes, but I think he's one of the more important characters that in a remake you would beef up a little bit and see. We could actually see some scenes as the government is being affected by what Thomas is doing and bringing in their men to investigate and put a halt to it. And we should see a little bit more of Peters for sure. But I didn't cast it. I think it's only fitting for a director that it'd be Duncan Jones.
I almost went there, but I went a different direction.
Who I think is a very creative director, and being the son of David Bowie seems oddly appropriate.
Yeah, I can get behind that one.
Yeah, I thought
like
you
that
would.
one better than one I had.
And boy, replacing Bowie, I'm like, who's kind of thin and got that a weird kind of face, that androgynous, alien-esque kind of look to him, and I'm like, and he's British, great. I went with Cillian Murphy.
I get it. I get it.
You
I
can see it. You can see it. That one took me a while. Once I had it, I'm like, okay, the rest will be
because-
cake.
I had my Thomas before I walked out when you told me the movie last week.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't wait to
I had
hear
my
that.
Tommy, but I had, when you talk about actually, part of my notes is like David Bowie looks absolutely beautiful in this movie. Like his face is very angelic and beautiful. Cillian Murphy, I think that every time I look at him.
Yeah, well, there you go. For my Nathan Bryce, which was the Rip Torn character, I went with Sam Rockwell. I think he could deliver those layers of performance. He's kind of in that middle age where he can play a little younger and older with the aging. And he's already worked with Duncan Jones. So
There you go.
there you go. Mary Lou was really tough for me. And then after seeing Colossal, I'm like, this is a little out there, but I thought of Anne Hathaway.
I can kind of see that.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a little older than I think the Mary Lou character is, but she can play younger.
Yeah, I think she still looks and can play younger, but she's in a little bit more of a little older where she can play younger and play older. I mean, Colossal, she was playing younger, and it works to great effect, and she's kind of more of this rough and tumble girl. I really like that movie, by the way. Go check it out. I went for my Oliver Farnsworth. I went Stanley Tucci.
Nice.
Yeah, so I was pretty happy with my casting choices on this. I'm like, okay, like I can see all of these working in that movie and almost just cut and pasting, but it's going to be tough to anybody who's going to be trying to pull off that Bowie performance is going to have an uphill battle.
Oh, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Gonna be tough. Okay, so it's my turn?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about like the Bowie performance, and part of this was anchored on some of the stuff that they had mentioned in the film, so I can explain some of my casting. So I just used the last name Newton and not Tommy because my Bowie is Tilda Swinton.
You know what? That was actually my first choice. And I'm like, I want to do that because it'd be great.
She's
but she's
that
kind of
alien as
done
well.
this already.
That's
true.
That's the thing. And I mean, she did cross my mind, but like I said, and she's more mature now, right?
Yeah.
I want my Thomas to have that sort of younger, sort of stuck in his mid-20s.
I would have said 90s Tilda Swinton.
Yeah,
for
like
sure,
I'm saying,
yeah.
if I have young Tilda Swinton, but still Tilda Swinton, because the other thing about it too is
she's the first person I thought of.
when Tommy's costume disguise is taken off. I mean, it's genderless essentially.
Yeah.
So I mean, and I was kind of taking the idea that perhaps Tommy came to Earth, and because they were getting like those TV shows, they're like, well, it seems like if I'm going to make any money, I better be the man a character. So they just became a man out of just necessity.
Yeah.
And then I had for Bryce, I went a different way as well. Michelle Yeoh. She's the was it Asians, Rich Asians, that movie that's coming out?
Yep.
That reminded me of her. I'm like, I haven't seen her in a lot lately. She's going in.
Yeah. Interesting fact, by the way, Candy Clark, who played Mary Lou, was also played the alien wife of David Bowie.
She
on the other planet.
also played some scenes for David Bowie when he was sick.
Yes.
Because he drank bad milk that had a golden glow in it.
Right.
He was totally on drugs.
See?
Like, where did you get bad milk with gold floating on the bottom? I'm like, wow, that's a trip and a half.
But yeah,
I'm
she
wondering
did stand
what's
in
in
for him
it.
doing a physical performance on his, while he was ill.
With the hat
hiding
on.
behind the hat. Yeah.
That's awesome. And then, I don't know, just as an homage, I kind of changed this partway through. I'd started off with Iman as an homage. But then when you were talking, I'm like going, crap, I know a perfect Mary Lou, and that is Anna Kendrick. I think she's
That's a good choice, too.
got
That
that
is a very good
youthfulness,
choice,
and she
actually.
can also
I really like that.
mature up as well.
Yeah.
For Farnsworth, Steve Carell.
Oh, I think we
That's
probably cast the
good.
same one.
What?
I think I cast Steve Carell as Farnsworth too.
Love it.
Uh-oh.
Love
You
it.
guys are starting to sync up.
Oh my god. We're on the same casting cycle.
No, I did not. Oh, ew.
A casting cycle is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
It's a genderless cycle.
A good point. Yeah, I did
And
cast
yet-
Carell, but not as Farnsworth.
Oddly enough, when they don't coincide, there's still blood.
There will be blood. So, good movie. Arthur John Leguizamo, because if we're going to beef him up, I like that.
He likes to do weird.
Yeah.
He likes to do weird. And then when you're talking about Peters, the government guy, I'm like, God, I had something in my head. And then Bradley Whitford. He's perfect as the slimy guy who's going to steal everything. And then as a director, I can go one of two ways. Because I'm thinking like in Scott Pilgrim versus the World, it was an interesting visual all along. So I went with Edgar Wright. But if it goes to a musical, Baz Luhrmann, because he's perfect mentality for this type
Yeah,
of
it's
musical.
got really great visuals.
I can get behind that.
Yeah, if we were to take that slightly terrifying musical route, that would be who I would want to do it.
Yeah. I have the Peters, by the way, Mahershala Ali.
Oh,
There we go.
Nice.
There we go.
I love it.
There we go. See, it all comes together.
Yeah. I still don't have an Arthur, but that's all right.
That's okay.
Arthur's hard because you're trying to cast to what you think the beefed up role will be.
Yes, and the thing is, the Arthur in the movie is younger, but the person who pops into my head is older, and I'm going to go with him anyhow.
I'm going to say Benicio del Toro, the tubbier version from...
Yes, Leaving Las Vegas.
Fear
not
and Loathing
Leaving.
in Las Vegas?
yes,
That's
Fear and
right.
Loathing in
Yeah,
Las Vegas.
I can get behind that too. We're all going Latin.
Because we want to stay true to the character.
That's fair, yeah. All right, so I'm going to go to my Thomas last, okay? So, because...
Build up to it.
So, for my Peters, I went with more...
For your Peter?
For my Peter. there were Peters in this movie.
There were Peters.
Lots
in
of
this
Peters.
So, yeah, I went with Morris Chestnut.
movie. Okay.
I thought, because he has that big statue...
Yep.
esque build and presence, right? So my Arthur, I went with Louis Guzman because I love him.
Yes.
And I'd like to see him fill out that role. I think he can bring something to it. So for my Nathan Bryce, I went with Steve Carell for Nathan Bryce.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Nice.
Right.
That still works.
It still works. Yeah. For my Oliver Farnsworth, I went with Colin Firth.
Ooh.
Okay.
That's good. I like that.
Because I wanted somebody who would bring that, who can bring that elegance, right? Especially now, we want him. I don't want him to be a fat, but I do want him, or a feat, I guess is the way it is. But I do want him to have sort of a certain class to him.
Well, I don't know if you struggled with this. I was trying to find somebody who's like not too young, not too old, but when you aged up, it would be fine. You know,
and
that's kind of where I was trying to work with.
That's where I went with Steve Carell because I've seen him do the makeup with Foxcatcher and I mean he's really good, and that's also why I wanted him in this movie because he was so good. For my Mary Lou, I went with Gina Malone.
Ooh, I like that one.
Yeah, I think that she can play because she actually ties into my director because she's worked with him before. Jay and I both do that sometimes. So I went with another Nick. I went with Nicholas Winding Refn.
He was one of my other choices.
Because when you want to talk about somebody who tells a story visually, that's the director that pops into my head every time now. I mean, Drive and Neon Demon, just like so visual.
And doing most of his stuff with the visuals and using very little dialogue. Like Drive, the main character, when does he say anything for the first hour and a half?
I can't even remember. But I remember watching that movie going, wow, I'm really liking this movie. Nobody said a fucking word yet, but I like this movie. Right? So that's why I went with Nicholas Refn.
That's definitely a good choice.
Yeah. And then for my Thomas Jerome Newton, because I wanted to save this for last, I went with Bill Skarsgård.
Okay.
Right? When you want to talk that long, thin, translucent skin, slightly alien-looking person,
I totally see it.
I'm like, yeah, that's my guy. Right, and like I said, as soon as you said the movie, I already knew who I was casting.
He's getting hot.
He's another actor. Like, you know, there's some men who think of him as handsome, but I look at him and I'm like, I just think he's beautiful.
Ethereal. Yeah, he's
like he's just an angel.
Yeah.
Okay, we've isolated another crush.
Like I kind of
already knew about that one. I knew she was going to get giddy when I did the casting.
I think everybody kind of was really on their A game for their casting. I think so. Everybody did a good job.
We didn't want to do a disservice to this movie. Everybody here made some amazing.
And unfortunately, we haven't come up with a really solid remake idea.
No, because there is
other than the iffy musical.
Yeah,
but a Baz Luhrmann version of this I could get behind that.
You can do...
Sam just shudders every time we mention it.
Something, I'm trying to think. Like, you can do maybe... You just have to go really wild with it. Like, a Beyond the Universe type of deal where it is kind of dreamlike and it is ethereal.
That shows you could do. You can do it.
You need a director who's not afraid to take what Rogue did and take it just half a step or a step further and just add that extra elements of surrealness to it, tighten up some of the storytelling a little bit, and not a lot, just a little bit, bring it down, like you said, around to under that 2-hour mark, fill out a couple stories, update it so that the technology makes sense for a modern audience, and fix the scenes on his planet.
You know, part of me thinks like maybe it shouldn't be an American remake, because man, you look at it, I'm like, Jesus, it's like one step away from like Italian giallo.
Yeah.
Yes.
That dreamy Suspiria quality to it.
For sure,
well, when you're talking about like this just occurred to me. When you're talking about like all the sex scenes and all the nudity and all like a lot of sex, like it's the same person who did Don't Look Now. So now I'm kind of making that connection because there's a very notorious sex scene in Don't Look Now.
Rogue was, especially in his early years, was really known for that. Performance has a lot of nudity in it as well. Right? Like that's he really appreciates the human body in all its forms, and I think he likes to display it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of male nudity. I mean, they tried to stay away from the penis. I think that was a little bit of a no-no in 1976.
He still had to get it passed.
Yeah, and even then, you still got a little bit.
Which I find silly, because I saw a lot of bush in this movie.
Yeah, 76.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about the fact that the bushes are huge. I mean, they are,
showed them,
but they show them a lot.
Yeah, there was a lot of full frontal female nudity.
Yes,
and they were just side shots of the men or hidden by.
Oh, they got as close as they could get without actually showing it.
Yeah.
Get right down in there.
Yeah, it's true. But yeah, this is a movie
I can see where Paramount got a little nervous.
Yeah, I think so too. But I don't. I mean,
I think probably at a screening they're like, I don't get it.
Yeah, and there's probably that too. Is like we can't sell this to a mass audience, and they're right. They couldn't.
No,
there's no way.
No, it's an art house film.
Yeah. But yeah, I think ultimately, this movie's. We've said this before. These are fantasy remakes. I don't think any of us really believe this movie needs to be remade or ever should be remade.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they're going to, or somebody, some genius does, please listen. Don't fucking do it. No. But if you insist on doing it, listen to our casting, our directors, and just fix those little itty bitty things that need to be fixed. But don't mess with it too much.
And trust in your directors, because the ones we've named are very capable and would. This is something that would be safe in their hands.
I think all 4 directors, I guess, would be very confident and do a remake as much justice as you can do for something that's really is so standalone.
Yeah. That's why nobody even remembers the TV thing.
No.
Oh, I knew it was there.
And
I've never seen it.
I've never seen
Google
it.
only told me about it.
I'm sure it's a very linear, no depth to the kind of story. I mean, I briefly looked at it. I mean, it's 4 point something on the IMDb chart, so I mean, it's fairly terrible.
Yes.
Well, execution.
It's a TV movie. I think basically it's like, it's by the numbers. Okay. But I think what they probably did is commercialize it very much by like, alien lands on Earth, needs to make money to bring water back to his planet, and that's as deep as they got.
Sure.
This one gets tons deeper. That's what I think is
you're just they're never going to take those kind of risks. I mean, a lot of the themes of excess, all of them would probably be gone with the rampant alcoholism, and there definitely wouldn't be any nudity on television at that time.
Nope.
I mean, you couldn't get away with that level of nudity now unless it was like an HBO level thing.
Yeah, unless it's like True Blood.
Yeah.
That was like just tons of nudity.
Yeah.
Oh, Anna Paquin would have made a good Mary Lou too.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Because she can go really. She looks so young still.
Yep.
And then she could definitely go older.
Okay, well, you know what? We never ask you to agree with us. We're always interested in your opinions, what your casting would be like, whether you'd wanted to do it, see it or not. And we all kind of agree. We're like, it's a toughie. This one's a toughie. If you're gonna do it, I think maybe trusting in some creative minds is the way to go. But it's. Yeah, we can't seem to quite decipher that code.
You know the only other way, and I know nobody will like this idea. But,
I hate it.
Yeah.
I'm existing in all times right now.
There we go. See, you get it.
I do.
It's if you did like, I don't know how, like animated, but like heavy metal style.
Ooh, I could be down for that, actually. I've seen some fucked up animation.
Oh, yeah, Beyond the Rainbow? Was that the one? Or not that one. Oh, what's the name of it? Black Rainbow? No. I can't remember the name of it now off the top of my head. But yeah, there's one that's a real head trip. And
one day we're going to talk about some like crazy adult animation from the 70s.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
The Wall, Fritz the Cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I recently watched a bit of Fritz the Cat, and I'm like going, whoa.
It's fucking trippy.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, it is definitely a product of its times.
I don't hate that idea. I am backing out of the existing in all times because I obviously didn't see the right future.
Okay, cool. Well,
I could get behind an animated version.
What you did was you did what the man who fell to Earth could not do, which is you changed time, or ultimately this is like a multiple universe theory, and we've landed in the one where you liked it.
Yeah, and you know what?
I'm pretty soft on animation, so I love animation.
I'm not objecting entirely to that idea.
Yeah, I think I certainly like that better than a tribute musical.
Yeah. Oh, far better than tribute musical.
In fact, if anything, you can really accentuate the weirdness in a way a budget of the low budget of this movie couldn't.
Yeah, and you could also, when you wanted to do stuff, when you're talking about like the home planet, to get the otherworldliness of it is simply like a different style of animation in the movie as well.
Hey, I know you're a senior now, but Ralph Bakshi, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yes. Please come back.
One more. You got one more in you?
We need you now more than ever. Or do
and
you
he'd
know?
rotoscope it too, so all of our casting would still work.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I can get behind this.
A cool worldish feel.
Yeah.
Have one human character.
What's his name? Linklater also does that.
Yeah, he's done a couple like that. Yeah. Scanner Darkly.
Yeah, Scanner Darkly.
Yeah.
Which was really good too.
Yep. Yeah. Check
A Waking Life.
Waking Life,
Yeah.
also really good.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right, maybe we did decipher the code at the last second.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Trish.
Thank
See, you thought
everybody.
outside the box. That's the one I want.
We did it.
That's what I want. All right. Look for an animated version of this movie coming to theaters. Never.
Still, yeah. I still don't really ever want to see a remake of it, but
I'm kind of excited for an animated one.
You could do, yeah.
If you kind of work with that heavy metal look, that I could be down for that.
Because, I mean, heavy metal is
Ralph
a
Bakshi.
fuck ton of nudity.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm down for this. I'm down for this.
yeah. I'm not hating the idea.
But that said, I mean, commercially not viable right now.
No.
Oh, no.
Not in the climate of the films right now. Definitely not.
If this
if anything,
happens,
there's no room for art house movies right now.
No.
Thank you and fuck you, Disney.
No, if this happens, you have to go in knowing this is an art house movie. Like, it would probably have to be released on a platform like Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime. That's the only way that this could be done.
Adult Swim.
Yeah,
Super Adult Swim.
yeah. Maybe somewhere like HBO.
Yeah.
Right? As a what?
it
It would
would
make
take
a really great event series.
Yeah, I
on
mean,
HBO.
Yeah, and I think it would. You'd
You're
need
right.
a multi-part thing. It doesn't have to be huge, like British 3-part.
Yeah, like I said,
Yeah.
3 acts. You can fill out some of the story. You don't have to cut. Then you don't have to cut out so much of it either, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you can get three 45-minute to an hour episodes. Fill out the Arthur character, fill out the Peters character,
Yeah.
but not take anything away from the original story.
Yeah, and that would take a network or a platform that can think outside the box. I don't see
Have a platform, do the shuffle option like I was talking about.
Netflix, Amazon Prime. I honestly don't think Hulu's got enough balls to do it.
No.
So, but maybe something new. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting thought, and maybe giving it a little more time, which is an odd thing to say, an ironic thing to say. With this movie is all about keeping time ambiguous. But yeah, you can flesh out some of those characters a little bit more, and like that perspective shift might be a good way to do it through each episode.
Yeah. For sure, yeah. I'd like to see more with Farnsworth and his partner's relationship.
Yes.
I'd like to see that develop more because they did a good job, and I love the fact that they had an openly gay relationship on the big screen in 1976.
Yeah, that's why I think it's unfortunate that art house just doesn't have space right now in this big blockbuster world we live in.
Yeah.
But I think at least the world itself is going to be quite accepting of this movie even now.
Yeah.
More so now than ever before.
I would hope so.
Yeah. Oh, it was you're right. Like, it's wonderful. Like, we're watching them just have a cozy night at home.
Yeah.
And it's not.
It's sweet.
Yeah. Oh, and he was playing solitaire with the round cards. Do you remember the round playing cards? That was the other thing I wanted to
But
bring
I
up.
have some.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah, I'd love to see more about the tension
Yes.
that the relationship that Farnsworth has with Thomas,
How it
how
hurts.
it's affecting his relationship, because you mentioned it, and it was kind of touched on that there were that his partner had concerns, but
Yes.
you didn't really get the sense of tension. It's just like I'm a little bit worried kind of feeling about it.
Yeah, like,
Right?
I mean, and there should be more padding out, because I mean, they've been in a relationship for a long time.
Yeah.
So this will obviously, that strain over a long period.
Yeah, I think a 3-part event series,
Yeah.
3 1-hour episodes, give us that little bit of room. We need to develop the characters, maybe make it a little more coherent for the average viewer without spoon feeding it to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we
might
go.
have Found something anyway.
Yay,
I think
we
found
did it.
something.
Yeah.
Sort of.
We're stretching it.
We're stretching. we're kind of making it work. We'll take this as a reasonable win.
Yes.
This was definitely a toughie, but we've gone through worse.
Yes.
Yes.
There's been a couple there where we,
Go back and listen to our One Flew Over the Cuckoo's
and
Nest
Peeping
episode.
Tom, Jay and I
And
struggled
Peeping
hard.
Tom.
Hey, I cracked that code.
You did. You did, but you went, like, you took a hard left at the very
Oh,
end.
it was like we can't. So why try?
Yeah.
And that was why it succeeds.
Yeah, and then the Peeping Tom was another one where like, oh, if this was the one.
Yeah, we both just tanked that one.
Yeah.
But
you know, sometimes that's going to happen.
But that was a fun movie to talk about.
Oh, it was so much fun. Like this one was.
Yeah, but
right? Like
when we pick a movie, sometimes we haven't seen it, so we don't realize. Especially like a Peeping Tom, it was like, wow, this forgotten classic, and it should be heralded as a triumph of its time.
You know, it's funny. I'm on a horror news group, not a news group, but a group on Facebook, and every time somebody says recommend a film, I'm like, please tell me that somebody's recommended Peeping Tom, because it really is just a beautiful piece of filmmaking.
Yeah. So go listen to that episode. I don't remember which one, but go scrolling down our incredible backlist. And hey, where can you find that backlist? All the episodes are posted on all of our platform providers, except for YouTube. Most of them are there, but not everything. But everything else, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play Music, TuneIn Radio, Player FM, Audio Boom, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, the entire library's there. So, and tell your friends where to find it. I just told you, so do it. I'll wait.
Please tell them.
You can tell them.
Did you yet? You can pause and go ahead and do it, but
send out the mass text.
Yeah.
Time is not linear here.
Okay. I'm gonna assume they did it. And hey, tell your friends, tell everybody, and while you're showing them where to find it, maybe stop in at Apple Podcasts and iTunes to drop us a 5-star rating and a quick review. That would help us out immensely. Spread the word. We're always looking to grow the invasion. And you know what? I didn't even start this episode out. This is our 3rd anniversary today. This episode.
This episode. Oh yeah, that was. There's another podcast friend I mentioned them before. They're also celebrating their 3rd anniversary this week.
Ooh.
Oh wow.
Yeah, the Unreadable Rant are this week is their 3-year anniversary as well. And then I also wanted to mention
happy anniversary.
Yeah, happy anniversary, Juliet and John. Sorry, John, the producer. And then we also wanted to mention our friends Bad Reception. Right? They said some really nice words about us on a recent podcast, and I did listen, and they're fun. They have so much fun. Check them out. They do canceled TV shows.
Cool.
Yeah, they watch an episode or a couple episodes of a show that didn't get very good reviews while it was on the air, and they do their own analysis of it. It's quite funny. The one I listened to was their Rambo the Animated Series one.
I remember that.
Yes. And because they were both 2 when it came out, it was a very new experience for them.
Thanks for making me feel old, guys.
I felt old too, but yeah, it was a lot of fun to listen to. So yeah, definitely check them out.
Hey, I've probably got half of these forgotten animations in my collection.
Probably,
quite possibly.
You might have forgotten you had these forgotten animations in your collection. It's double forgotten.
Yes. So yeah, I stepped on our anniversary to say happy anniversary to somebody else. I'm sorry, Jay.
Hey, well, it's somebody else's anniversary too. Yep. I'm not going to assume we're the only one.
That's fair.
When weddings happen, there's more than one a day.
It's very true. Very, very true.
So.
But yeah, you just reminded me that I'd forgotten to mention that, as well as our friends at Bad Reception. So
cool. Well, yeah, I guess that's it.
Watch this movie, guys.
Watch it.
Yeah.
At least once.
Yeah, I'm an advocate for this film.
Chances are you're going to watch it and go, what the fuck, and watch it again, and then you'll go, half a fuck, and then watch it a 3rd time. I'm not quite at a full fuck yet. I don't know exactly what I'm seeing, but you keep it going until you get it.
See, you might be going...
I got a few more to go.
First time, what the fuck? 2nd time, fuck. 3rd time, like 3 fucks up. Then the 4th time, you're like minus a fuck because you don't know. You thought you knew what was going on.
If you've watched it 6 times in a row, then you're probably just not going to give a fuck.
You're probably going to have a melted brain.
6 times in a row, then you would have spent like 12, 13, 14 hours of your life.
At this point, you're just fucked.
Yeah. Use discretion in the viewings. Listen to our episode between viewings.
Yes.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff you've watched may make more sense.
There we go.
We promise nothing.
Oh, and whatever
I
you
said
do,
may. I did say may.
Don't play a drinking game where you choose a character and drink when they drink. You will die.
Yeah.
That's key.
It's very key.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, it's worth...
For your own safety.
it's worth seeing for these performances, because as Jay said at the beginning, is like he was making notes. He's like, these performances are terrible. Then you realize they're supposed to be these people. These aren't terrible performances. These are actually really great performances of terrible people.
All right. Well, that was The Man Who Fell to Earth, the Bowie classic from 1976. I think it's time for us to get back up on the mothership for another week. Maybe we'll try something new next week. My schedule's a little tight, so we're going to try something a little different on you, and then we'll the week after we'll get back to it.
Sounds good.
For sure.
All right. Till next week, we are out of here.
Last night I was watching television. I saw these ex-astronauts. Some of them are basket cases now.
Television. Strange thing about television is that it doesn't tell you everything. It shows you everything about life on Earth. The true mysteries remain. Perhaps it's in the nature of television. Just waves in space. Do you trust me, Dr. Price?
I think so.
That's not good enough.
It's the best I can do.